go ahead. It's a little different today because we're practicing up there. We did some reviewing here, and then we're going to have our full practice up there, so it's a little bit different day. So appreciate you coming in. Go right ahead. Well, there's no question on the defensive end. It starts with the ball screen defense. There's no question about that because they utilize it so much, and so many things that happen inside of a possession for them either begin or end with a ball screen or both. So you have to do a great job there. But the other thing is they're a very well-balanced team, and you can't ever get away from not only what Trey Burke does, but what Tim Hardaway Jr. does. I mean, sometimes it's astonishing to me the lack of attention that kid gets, and a young man, I should say. He's not a kid. I mean, because he's been such a big part, such an integral part of bringing their program back to where it is, and he's a very, very dangerous opponent because he does things on both ends of the court, and so you can't let him get going. I mean, Nick Stauskas shooting the ball at a really high rate. I mean, we've got to go in there and defend the three. So staying on point with your question. It's the ball screen defense. We've got to do a great job on the three, and then I think the thing that's big, and it's been huge for us because it's been. When we've played really well, we've been pretty good at it, and in 2 of the last 3 games, we haven't been so good at it, and that's the rebounding. We just can't give extended possessions to them and extra possessions to them. And then offensively, we've got to get and make sure that our foot's on the gas pedal. I mean, we really do. And at times the other night in the Ohio State game, we didn't keep our foot on the gas pedal the way that it needed to be, especially after they scored. You know, we've been very good at scoring and coming right back, and on the road especially, and we didn't do it as well at home. And that's the big thing. And there's other keys inside of this. We got to be very diligent in the half court. We've just had somebody just literally in the scout team sliding around the court, just looking for anybody that they could draw a charge on, just sliding under, getting under them, falling early, because that's what we're going to deal with. It just is what it is. And so the worst thing we can do, and I think they had to see it on film to really absorb what we're talking about. And I know they did. I mean, there's always little games within the game, and we've got to make sure that we don't, we just got to play. We've got to slide. We've got to take a pull-up. We've got to make the next pass. We want to play fast, but we don't need to be in a situation where people are sliding into us and all of a sudden the whistle blows and we didn't think they were going to do it. So those type of things are important in it. So those are the biggest keys. I respect what Jay says in a lot of areas, but I would say you have to go to both Michigan State games, the Minnesota game here, Ohio State there. Those were pretty physical games. I don't think we've always played our best in those games, but we've also had some very good games that were very physical. The game at Ohio State, physicality-wise, and the game at Michigan State were as physical as any we've played in to this point. But there's no question that we've got to be where it's showing up right now. I don't think I wouldn't just put it on the physicality, because the physicality a lot of times doesn't have a lot to do with your lack of offensive rebounding. We got to rebound the ball better. And this last week we have not rebounded it the way we need to, even in the win over Iowa. So that's a big thing. Now, some of that defensive rebounding, absolutely, because if you look at our percentages, especially over the last few games, they're not bad at all defensively. I mean, it's 3-point defense. They get skewed because we're giving up offensive boards. So in that sense, we've got to be more physical, more aggressive, make the first contact better, more consistently. And then with that, our guards have to rebound better. Our guards haven't rebounded as well in a couple of these games.
This team has done a good job moving forward after your losses. How have they practiced since Tuesday?
No, we've practiced well. Yeah, we've practiced very well, and there's a sense of urgency. Not just because we've lost, not just because it's Michigan, but because they know they can play better. So, and that's really what it is. They've always been good with that.
Obviously,
there's really not a lot of choice if there wasn't. I mean, but it's really they are. So I mean, immature teams you have to deal with that. This team, we've never had to deal with that.
Obviously, when you go through season planning for this, you've taken practices down a little bit in terms of
sure.
And stuff like that. But do you have any concern about fatigue lately?
Oh no, not physical fatigue. And if you saw our practices, you'd you'd agree with what I'm saying. Not the physical fatigue. I think the grind of the season is like I look at it this way with our team right now. We're not having as bad as stretches as we're having some pockets that aren't so good. That's the difference. You know, stretches are like ruts you can't get out of. You know, we really haven't been in that situation. There's been a couple pockets, and because these games are so, because the teams are so good in this league, plays get magnified. You know, like it's real easy for us to go, for me to look at it and say 56-50 the other night, and we've got two veterans in a situation on a pick and roll, you know, with Deshaun Thomas in that we're switching it, and we don't switch it, and Deshaun Thomas hits a three, it's 59-50. You know, those are the kind of, those little pockets. You're never going to play great. The other team's got something to do with that. But there's no question over a long season that the mental fatigue of it kicks in, and everybody goes through it, because the word grind is overused a lot of times and understood, you know, or misunderstood. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. These guys have worked so hard to be in this position, and you know, we've talked for many, many years, you know, about cutting down nets and the symbolism of that. And they've worked so hard through this body of work to get to that point. And that's the reason that we did it the other night and didn't do it in practice. And you know, we could have come back and done it in a practice, but you know what? They've earned it. And so that you want them to keep understanding, you know, nobody was happy, nobody was excited. Heck, we had to go chase Tim Garl down, and he's got his gray T-shirt on. He comes out to cut the net. He doesn't even take a strip. You know, I mean, and there's a guy that, you know, let's add to your collection. You've got more hardware than any of us. But I get all that. But the symbolism is, okay, you're always taking steps and you're moving forward. That was a step to get to that point. But now we can't sit back on it. And it's all about continuing to go. And you've got to keep the game fresh. Our guys spend a lot of extra time in the gym. And so that, and with that being said, you don't have to practice as long. And we don't. We tapered this back. I know I've said this before, but we tapered this back far earlier than I ever have as a coach, as a head coach. And it was in a little bit past mid-January. So, but no, I watched this practice. We're not physically fatigued.